Infinity Gamer here, and we're jumping on the CodeOne hype train. So CodeOne is being launched with Operation Coldfront, but if we rewind a bit, it's important for us to understand how we've got here and why this is all important. So we're currently playing version N3 of Infinity. Now that started when Corvus Belli launched Operation Coldfront, which was kind of how you got into N3. Then they launched Operation Red Veil, which was another opportunity for people to buy into new factions and to get a quick idea of how to play the game and basically get into Infinity. Then they launched Operation Wildfire, which was a two-player battle pack featuring O12 and Shazvasti, and again was labelled as the perfect way to get into playing Infinity. In fact, they even said it. I got in thinking that was the case, and it was not easy at all. I've played the Operation Wildfire games with a friend, and it wasn't easy, but I decided to chug on anyway and entered a competition. But I did struggle. In amongst all the difficult rules, the nested layers, we basically found that N3 was not very easy to play at all. So Corvus Belli's basically listened and is launching a brand new version of its game designed specifically for new players to get into Infinity. It's called CodeOne. And it's the precursor to the new generation of rules, which is N4. Now, N4 is being touted as being a huge improvement on N3, but the core mechanics are going to stay the same. So we're kind of being teased into this. Experienced players are obviously picking apart the rules to see if anything major changes from N3 to N4. But us newer players, and I'm going to ignore N4 almost entirely until it drops, because all of us new players are being encouraged to play CodeOne. Now that is being made even easier because they're launching Operation Coldstrom. Now I apologise if I pronounced that wrong. So that is Pan-Oceania versus Yujing. You buy the CodeOne Operation Coldstrom box, you get both armies, you get quick start rules, and you basically get everything you need to start playing CodeOne. Now when we start looking at the quick start rules which come into play. They came in for N3, so you basically started with quick start rules, then N3 actually had big rules. There was also quick start rules in Red Veil, Operation Wildfire. Now they've actually launched the CodeOne quick start rules. I'm going to be doing a bit more of an in-depth look at some of the rules later, but on the surface of things, there's nothing that's majorly changed that we can see. As at least from a learner's perspective, there's still the core mechanics. You know, orders are generated, you move, you then you declare a second action, there are AROs. So it's still the same great game where it's never really a turn. You know, there's an active player and there's a reactive player, but everyone's doing stuff all the time. You know, even when it's not your turn, you're still shooting back, you're potentially killing models. Like, it's everything I absolutely love about Infinity, but it's apparently in a much easier format for people to jump on board. Now, again, I'm going to look through a bit of the rules with my beginner kind of lens on there to just go, hey, if I was picking this up again, like I did with Operation Wildfire and trying to learn N3, is N4 potentially going to be easier by going through CodeOne and the quick start rules? So I'm going to be looking at that in a bit more critically than maybe I have before. On the surface of things, there's more information in the CodeOne quick start rules. There's more pages to it. The graphics are great. It does look as though it's going to be slightly easier to pick up, but again, I'm going to look into that in more detail later on. I'm personally really excited for CodeOne and also a little bit N4, but more so for CodeOne, because I really want people to get into Infinity. It is by far the best tabletop game I have played. I got sucked into Warhammer 40k, tried to make it work for about 2 editions, and this is so much better. Like, you're talking to your opponent so much more, you're working together a little bit to try and make sure that people can see stuff, or you're talking about intent. There are sneaky shenanigans, but it's all in good spirit. Like, this is a much nicer game to be playing, and I really want more people to be playing Infinity globally. And I really hope that CodeOne is how people get into it, because it's easy to pick up and it's limited and it's easy. And I also hope CodeOne does a really good job of actually explaining the main rules a lot better. So even though the quick start guides in Operation Wildfire, which I tried to understand, were good for learning a game, you weren't really learning the game. So I could not have gone straight from playing Operation Wildfire and then playing good level N3 full games. It's kind of like if you played Warhammer 40k, it's kind of like going from power levels, and you can take whatever weapons you like and just throw whatever models you you down, and then basically going on and playing competitive where all of a sudden you've got major restrictions and there's points and there's a whole bunch of other stuff. That's kind of what it's like trying to go from the quick start guides all the way up to just playing a normal casual game of Infinity. There's so many nested rules, there's so much complexity, there's so many different layers that they just don't even start to touch upon in those quick start guides. So I'm genuinely hoping that they've nailed it with CodeOne and that you can kind of transition more easily to then playing full on N4 when that releases. If they haven't nailed it, I am going to be slightly disappointed because I think that jump from learning the mechanics to then actually being able to learn some of the more intricate levels of the game is where they've fallen short so far. And if they can nail that, then Infinity is going to be probably the best tabletop game that is actually out there. I'm optimistic. Everything I've seen so far kind of lends us to believe that it's likely to be heading that way. Not just because O12 and Shazvasti have been included in kind of the limited amount of factions that have been included in the CodeOne release. So just in case you're not aware of that, they haven't actually released CodeOne rules for every army that exists currently in N3. It's only Pano, Yujing, Shazvasti, and O12, as far as I can see so far. And that's probably because O12 and Shaz got caught up in Wildfire, which actually wasn't that long ago. So they're probably trying to not annoy people who have just bought into the brand new faction of O12 and are then going to get left out. I'm going to be able to play CodeOne very easily with my existing O12, which is good. So there's no change for me. I'm going to be able to use my existing armies. But to be honest, if you were looking to get into Infinity, Pano, Yujing are really good armies to be learning with. Actually, before I knew that O12 was coming out in Wildfire and that it was brand new, I was seriously eyeing up Pano. I really liked that army. And Yujing, to be fair. I like those armies. So I think they've done really well in taking what are probably 4 of the most appealing armies, and I know I'm going to cop flack for saying that, but at least from an outsider, when you look at Infinity and you just browse the website, you can very easily see how those 4 are very exciting armies and that you'd want to pick them up just on aesthetics alone, not understanding any of the complexities that underlie either of those armies or some of the other armies that maybe don't get the same level of showtime, but they're also very fun to play against. But for me as a new player, I'm incredibly excited because anything that makes it easier for me to pick up this game or my friends to pick up this game and join me, I'm absolutely chomping at the bit for this to be released, and I just can't wait to see what it finally looks like. So keep on the channel. I'm basically going to be using the lockdown that's in New Zealand to focus quite a bit on CodeOne and also a little bit M4 as those sorts of things get dropped. Are you excited for CodeOne? Are you going to be getting Operation Coldstrom when it comes out? Let me know in the comments. Love hearing your opinions, and yeah, look forward to more updates.